Okay, well, it's been a long week for me. Something about getting switched to nights when you're not expecting it and still trying to function during the day. So I definitely got plenty of sleep for the first day yesterday, being Thursday of course. So now it is time to get back to work. It's Friday, which is unusual for me to be doing any kind of work on a Friday, but I'm going to go ahead and get set up and we'll see what we can get accomplished today. Last video I shot was building our router cabinet, and it was definitely cold out. I'm not sure if you can see this in the video or not, but the Excel glue, the polyurethane glue, functioned very well in the cold. So now all I've got to do is I've got to scrape off all of the ooze out that you get. So I'm going to go ahead and use my speed square to do that. It seems to be one of the better tools I've found for it so far. I'm sure chisel would be better, but whatever. Here's what you got, most of. Okay, now the fun stuff. Let's rotate this down a bit. What we're going to do is take our cabinet. We're going to have to roll it over. Oh, by the way, for those keeping score, it's upper to mid 30s today. Heat wave. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and position this cabinet, this router cabinet, where I want it on the plate. That's going to cap our portion box. Well, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to drill I don't know, maybe 4 or 6 holes through here, through our cabinet, through our plate, and on the underside I've got the T-nuts here, the ones with the little prongs on them, and I'll put those on the underside. That way, as I said in one of the previous videos about keeping it modular, we can bolt this down and unbolt it at the same, and move it around if we need to. Hopefully, we'll see if it works out so well. I will have everything pretty much standard on both sides. Another point I want to make, if you've watched the previous videos, you know I'm running electrical conduit through the torsion box. And the router cabinet is going to be on the opposite side of where that cord comes in. I don't want the cord between my legs, so I'm trying to move a piece on through here. That just seems like it'd be a little tricky to work around. So I'm going to go ahead and get this positioned and drill myself some holes. Yeah. Make sure it's square. I'm going to clamp it down and drill it. Found my drill bits. Yay. Now to set where I'm going to put my holes, I'm going to actually use the little corner here of the speed square as my guide. That way, on all of them, it'll be relatively the same. It's not an exact science by any means, by any stretch of the imagination, but it's close, and I'm okay with close. After sitting for almost a week, and the weather getting, big head again, the weather getting warmer and more moisture in the air from the snow melting, this Excel 1 glue is really started to expand. Very pleased with it so far. I'm planning on using 1/4-inch bolts for this to hold everything down. Either bolts, or maybe I'll go with some of those taper-headed screws. Wow, I'm showing my man card there, knowing different hardware part names, huh? I think 1/4 inch should be fine. especially considering I'm planning on using grade 8 and or maybe grade 5, either one. I think it'll more than handle any stress that I'm going to put under it. Why am I going so strong on that stuff? Why ain't I just using what you get off the shelf? I gotta remember, I'll be pushing this thing across my driveway, the grass, maybe in and out of a trailer sometimes. So that's why I've got to go a little bit stronger and beefier. I would have gone with a larger bolt. That's just, the head size gets too large if I go with a regular bolt head. It starts interfering with the drawers and just takes away space. That's not worth it. So I think I'm going to actually go with five of those to hold this thing down. I'm going to get my 5th one in now, and then I'll show you how I'm going to actually go about attaching them underneath. When I got this particle board, it was beyond a good deal. Part of the reason is it was old, it had been sitting in the guy's garage for a while, and there are staples all throughout the ends of it, so gotta be careful. I keep catching my fingers on it. But anyway, now you can try and use those lock nuts as is to bite in to the bottom of your particle board, and that may work. It may not last a long time. You can take a piece of either hardwood or softwood, glue it on the underside of the board, drill it of course, and let those barbs really bite in there. I have seen guys go ahead, run that in, and then they'll put a screw next to it. It's a good idea. It holds it. Definitely consider that. But there's another option. If you take your lock nut thing and you put it up under there, then you take another board and you glue it up underneath there and screw that. Now your T-nut is stuck in there. It can't fall out, and because it's pressed in there really good, hopefully, it should stay nice and tight where you put it to stay with. Wow, I need a haircut. So now I'm going to go ahead and try and set one of these in from the underside. I might have to roll the whole thing over. Yeah, I'm going to roll the whole thing over. Okay, through the miracle of television, we got it rolled over. Let's go ahead and drive these in. One of the great things about having the part of this torsion box already together is you can move your board around so it's right at the intersection of 2 of your cross braces, and you know you've got a good solid surface to start with. I'm satisfied. Now all we got to do is take some blocks, put them down over that with some glue and a couple of screws, and it's set. Literally set right in there. One thing I need to do is learn to stop walking into the camera. I need to slide this over and make sure that wherever I'm going to glue my blocks, there is not going to be a cross brace. And on this one in the back, we happen to have a little bit of an issue. It's close. It's not right there, but it's close. So I'll be able to cover at least half of it though. So I'm going to go ahead and get the glue, screw these things down, and show you what I did afterwards. Alright, so what I did is I took brad nailer and I glued down a bunch of blocks over the over those little T-nuts and nailed them down So the blocks are glued and nailed in place. I would have used screws, but I didn't have any short enough screws that wouldn't come poking through the other side. So now all I've got to do is, while everything is still wet, I'm going to roll it back over, make sure that nothing interferes, and once I know that, then I'm going to keep moving on. Probably get some more done here as far as how I'm going to wire up the router cabinet and the rest of the torsion box. One of the key things is I've got to know where this router cabinet is going to be permanently mounted so I can run the electrical conduit on up to it. Then I've also got to figure out the table saw where that's going to go, so again I can run the electrical up to that, as well as my charging station and my auxiliary outlets. Okay, one more quick tip. Always, when you're doing something like this, you've got to take a drill bit that's small enough to get through there and not mar up the threads that you have. Drill yourself a pilot hole on through, and then roll the board over one more time and drill at least a slightly larger hole. I'm using a 1/4 inch T-nut, so I'll probably go, I don't know, 64th or maybe even up to 5/16 even. I could do that of a hole from the other side then, just to make sure that you've got a relief, so that if you ever, let's say, don't have a bolt that's only 1.5 inches long, it's a bit longer than that or whatever it might be, you want to make sure that you're able to thread all the way through there and not hit the obstruction of that board that's underneath. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do now. Pretty easy. Now track down a 1/4 inch bolt and make sure it worked. Here we go. To get a ratchet to drive them in a little bit quicker and probably easier too. Works out pretty good. Now I just got to try this on the other 4, and we'll be done with this part of it. Okay, just using some standard old bolts that I had laying around for right now. As you can see, it's all bolted in place. 5th bolt is back there, all the matching ones over here, and that is what will hold our router cabinet in place. It is just simply being bolted down. Gotta make our shelf now that'll slide into here, and as you can see, there's still a little bit of dust in there, and I'm sure some of you have already noticed my little oops on here, but yeah, we'll leave that in the comments section, and why dwell on just the mistakes. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is unbolt this, put the cabinet inside where it'll be dry, and I think I'm going to get back to the electrical. Okay, before I unbolt this, I thought of something. If I'm getting ready to start running more electrical lines through the torsion box, here's the question I have. Where am I going to put the switch for our router? One of the best options I come up with, okay, I shouldn't say best, the easiest option, is to put a switch box right in here that'll be part of the door for the router itself. You know, you just flip the switch on and off that way. Don't necessarily like that idea because it's right in front and it's very easy to bump. The other option is to do what some people have done, and it's a fake drawer here, so that way you can mount your switch on the side and all of the electrical lines will run through this fake drawer. So those are my 2 options that I'm looking at. One, for safety standards, I like it being over there. 2, for the storage space, I like it being right here. Now remember, there will be a top still on here, still another, I don't know, 1.5, 2 inches, maybe 3 inches thick, whatever I decide to go with, that will overhang by a little bit. So the switch won't be sticking straight out where you're definitely going to be hitting it, but it is going to be there. The other thing, I don't believe I'm going to go with the standard tool switch, if you will, that weird safety toggle type switch. I am just going to go with a regular switch on here, probably just a paddle switch. I know here I'm talking about safety of the switch not being here, and then I tell you all I'm going to use just a standard paddle switch. That's what I'm working with here. I'm not going to go off and buy any special switches and take away from other areas of this project. It's not to say that somewhere down the road I won't do it, but just chime in if you don't mind, guys. Leave me a couple of comments where you think you'd put the switch, whether you'd put it up front here or waste the drawer space and put it on the side over here, to give you some more relational ideas to where things are going. Right in this spot, just behind the router cabinet, that's where the table saw is going to go, and then there will be more storage on the other side, on that end down there. Won't be too terribly much storage behind the table saw, which will be right here. On my original stand, if I can kind of walk on over here, the original saw, the whole back was the outfeed. So on this one here, I've decided to do something a little different by mounting the saw on the side over there. It's definitely different for me. The original version of the saw I made, it was the same exact way, just wasn't a torsion box type setup. The second one, yes, it's a torsion box setup, but not done very well. It was done on an extreme budget, and I really hadn't done anything like that before. This one here, I'm trying to experiment because I see what other guys have done. I'm still probably going to go ahead and build an extension wing that hangs down the back here that can fold up, and that will help give me more of an outfeed than just the 40 some odd inches. Yeah, my top will probably be about 48 inches, but that way when I'm running longer sheets through, I don't have to worry about trying to catch them. And again, remember, I'm working outside, I'm not dealing with level surfaces, so to try and get an outfeed table set up just right for this is going to be too much of a challenge to even think about at the moment. So that's why I'm thinking I'll do that wing and just hinge that on there somehow. But yeah, guys, if you don't mind, chime in about the electrical. The conduit is going to run up right around in here to a plug right about here that'll be for the router to plug into, and then I've just got to figure out how I'm going to get the power there to switch it. You know, another option to avoid losing storage is I do have some solid conduit that you can get a 90-degree type bend for. I could, you know, if this here was the other side, run a piece of that solid conduit across to one of those 90s and then just right into the switch box that way. It's not as neat and tidy, but it could indeed work. So that's something to think about too. So please chime in with your options, gentlemen. I'd greatly appreciate it.